All right. Looks like we are now live. Hopefully the sound's okay and everything. And yeah, I guess we'll just see how all this goes. So, what's going on? And welcome to Joe's Geek Show, the video series where we talk comics. And before we get started, if you're new and like to support the channel, you can do so by hitting that like button, clicking that subscribe button, and sharing. So I know it's been a while since I've done any kind of live streamed. I'm very inconsistent on that kind of thing. Life gets in the way, things happen. I've been very busy. It's just been, living in another country. What can I say? But recently we've, made a couple of changes and stuff. We got my daughter in daycare 3 days a week. So I'm hoping that frees me up for a little bit more time and stuff. To hopefully make a few more videos in the week, as well as I would like to try to start like upping my live streams, maybe every single Friday, which will be Thursday for everybody in the States. um and the general purpose of it will be to more or less try to cover some of the books that I just haven't had time to make videos on and stuff like that. So as far as like schedules and stuff go, my general process so far has been trying to have a pre-recorded video out by Wednesday. Uh, well, Wednesday here in Japan, so that'd be Tuesday in the States. And if I can have something, maybe on a Monday where I try to do like maybe a short or anything like that. Sorry about that. That was my phone. That is, you know, that's the goal. That's the goal in mind to try and do. So I mean, I already released one review this week. That one was for Batman 89 issue number 4. So if you haven't watched that one, go check that out. Go check out some of the ones I uploaded from the previous weeks. I'm pretty consistent on the Flash. For the most part, in terms of getting those videos out. And then usually when there's nothing out that I try to uh that I wasn't really interested in reading, I usually just pick something at random to do. But at least two of the books that I wanted to come on and kind of talk about a little bit would be the Batman issue number 118, where Joshua Williamson, takes over writing duties on the Batman book, and the Dark Knights of Steel series thus far, because that's another book that I've been wanting to sort of talk about. And I had wanted to do either a review or a short review on it, but I just have not been able to get that out. So I thought, okay, I'll just jump on the live and do it that way. So I wanted to start with the Batman issue number 118. Now, Joshua Williamson is a writer that I kind of have, not grievances or anything like that. I'm kind of split on the guy sometimes, because when he first started, from my like the first time I ever read him was on the Flash, and so I loved him. Like that story, his that first initial kickoff on the Flash, I was totally into it. And it was kind of one of those deals where as time goes on, the work sort of started to decline a little bit for me. Whereas it kind of almost read like he had a set idea and a set story. It got up to a certain point, and then it was just like, kind of started to trail off a little bit. I mean, overall, I did like his Flash run. It was just like that last half seemed a little bit more rough. Like maybe he wanted to take the story in a certain direction, and then he decided that's not what do you want to do, or editorial had him change it. I'm not really sure, but I noticed that was a bit of a trend that I started to find with him when I started picking up his books. Because whereas again, I really loved the Flash when it started and was a little harsher on it towards the end, it was kind of a similar thing with his Batman Superman book, where I read that first initial story with the Batman Who Laughs, and it was, who are the Secret Six, because the Batman Who Laughs was going around and he was like, infecting certain heroes, and turning them evil and stuff like that, where, that was the whole year of where that was, the beginning of the year of the villain, where you had like, Supergirl and Blue Beetle and a few other heroes turned into, the Who Laughs version of themselves. And I really like that story. I've had discussions with, some of my friends and other comic book people. It's kind of seems to be hit and miss for some, but I really enjoyed it. But it seems like after that first initial story, that was like more so the one that he wanted to tell. And so like the follow-up story with like, with like there was General Zod and the shrunken city of Kandor, which was a fun story, but it just didn't seem to have that same impact. And then, preceding the one after it with the Ultra Humanite, I was just kind of like, it just wasn't as interesting, and I kind of, trailed off. And so with this one, with the Batman 118, I definitely went into it with a few reservations, because my thought process was, okay, here's what might happen. I might read this first issue and decide, okay, I really like it and I want to proceed with, with this Batman run. But then, my general worry is over time, it would start, to decline, and I wouldn't enjoy it quite as much, because I mean, the last time I enjoyed a Batman run like all the way through was, Scott Snyder's, because with Tom King, I gave that one about 12 issues before I decided, okay, this Batman run, really isn't for me. So, but I decided to buckle down, go ahead and, give it a shot, because every time a new writer, jumps on the Batman book, or they switch out writers, and I know they've never had like that character as a solo title, I like to try to give it a shot. So with this particular Batman story, it's obviously after all that stuff that happened with the magistrate, they're defeated, and Gotham is just, celebrating. There's parties all over the place. Batman's still patrolling because it is Gotham City and crime is still very much a thing. And I will say, I did kind of laugh at the first sequence where it was the robbers and they were trying to break into this building, and and put Tom King on a Jaro ongoing. That would be fascinating. I would be interesting to see what Tom King did on an ongoing Jaro title. But but in the story and stuff, when you had the robbers breaking in, the guy's like, "Hey, I think I see Batman." The other guy's like, "Yeah, there's a statue," but then turns out it is Batman, and they're running to the cops because they don't want Batman to beat them up. Uh, I just thought it was really interesting. And I don't know if it was me specifically, but when I looked at one of the robbers, I noticed, one of them was, sort of chubbier, bald guy and stuff like that. And I thought to myself, like, is it me, or does this guy kind of look like Brian Michael Bendis a little bit? And I don't know if that was like some kind of intention, or if just, maybe a coincidence, because I mean, stockier, chubbier, bald guys, probably pretty, wide and variety and stuff like that. Because I mean, the Kingpin too, right? Um, but back into it and stuff. I really liked a lot of the shots in this one. That first initial shot of Batman standing, on the rooftops. He's got the fireworks behind him. Like, I don't know why I thought that, the artwork in the book was really good, and there was a lot of good shots and stuff like that. You know, and Next joke, will do, will do. And yeah, and since then, throughout the book, he's just talking to Oracle. She's trying to get him to kind of be like, hey, you can take a break. Everyone's sort of taking a break, except for like, the smaller thugs and stuff like that. And the one sequence I thought was really interesting was when Oracle had or Barbara Gordon told Batman about, this party that, a bunch of billionaires are throwing him. And he's like, well, I'm not invited because I'm not a billionaire anymore. But then she's like, yeah, but you want to know what the theme of this party is? And so he has to go to it because most likely it's going to be a big hit spot for other villains or whatever, because the theme of this party is villains. So like a bunch of Gotham's like richest people are dressed up as like Mr. Freeze, the Joker, and Poison Ivy and all that. And I'm just like, it was a little weird because I'm sitting there thinking like, okay, so you got a bunch of people that live in Gotham, insanely wealthy, and they thought, okay, we're just going to dress up as some of Gotham's like top psychopaths that just, commit crimes, murder people and stuff like that. I don't know. It was very, very interesting. And I kind of didn't know how to take it. But still, even still, Batman goes to the party because he figures, all right, somebody is going to straight up take advantage of the situation. And of course, it happens. Firefly shows up, and even a few of the other people in the crowd are working with him. Like someone's got like one of Mr. Freeze's guns, and then all of a sudden it turns out that Batman is at the party, but he's dressed as Killer Croc and he's doing all sorts of kung fu. And that was another really cool shot when Firefly like shoots him with the fire, and the Killer Croc suit burns off and Batman's just standing there. He's like partially aflame. Uh, what else was there? Oh yeah, and then the little girl dressed like Punchline, where Batman kind of just draws her a little bad autograph, which was, you know, kind of funny. But it was the end that I think really piqued my interest the most, where Batman finds out that members of the Batman Incorporated had been arrested. So he goes and he checks it out, and he finds out that they ended up killing this villain named Abyss. And so like the stage is pretty much set for the why. And as far as first issues go, it's pretty much how I typically experience Joshua Williamson. I'm very intrigued by this first issue. I think it's got I think it sets up a pretty decent mystery as to what could be going on, why these members of Batman Incorporated did what they did. And I also, like, even before that, it was really interesting just to see Gotham in a state of like celebration and whatnot. And even still, Batman's out doing his thing because he's like, crime never sleeps in Gotham. And even Barbara's kind of like, yo, you gotta take a break sometimes. Gotham just got over a really big thing with the magistrate. You can go home, catch some Z's or whatever. I'm sure the cops will take care of like, some of the other ones too. And I'm definitely gonna read. I decided, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna read the next issue, and I'm just so hoping that it does not go sideways and does not go south in any way, and that maybe at least for half the run, I guess, maybe like the Flash or so, uh, that it can be a fairly decent run, and that he's got a story in him. So we'll definitely have to see on that. And if you've read this issue, let me know what you think about it. Definitely for sure. Because I know another buddy of mine, like two of my buddies actually, like one really liked it. One was sort of indifferent to it. So, but we'll see what happens in the future. And then the second comic series that I kind of wanted to talk about was the Dark Knights of Steel from Tom Taylor. So, I mean, we've already seen now that Tom Taylor's already announced on like all of his social media and stuff like that, that he signed an exclusive deal with DC. So what does that mean? That means, Tom Taylor is going to be writing a lot more books. I mean, he's already been writing Nightwing, which I haven't really delved into. I've heard some pretty good things about it. The Superman, Son of Kal-El, which I've heard sort of more mixed things on. I did read that first issue, but I wasn't really like super into it, where to me it just sort of read like, okay, this is John Kent as Superman, and I guess from there, from issues like 2 and up, like it changes completely. But you know What else? Oh yeah, and then of course, other things he's done for DC, like he did Deceased, which was like really awesome. And now he's writing the Dark Knights of Steel, and this was a story where I saw the premise and I was like, yeah, I think I can get into the sort of like reimagined uh, version of the DC universe, but everything is just in medieval time. And I was really intrigued by that because I'm like, what could they do with this? And one of the first like big changes that I saw was a very different interpretation of Superman's origin, of course, where he's still a baby, Krypton explodes, comes down on the rocket, but his parents are actually with him. And so, Jor-El and Lara, they get all their powers and they become, king and queen of their own land, and Superman is a prince. And I'm like, yeah, that was a strong that was a strong opening. I was definitely into it, especially when it came to the end of the first issue. And sorry, I should have capped spoiler warnings on like all this because it's been a bit, since the first issue came out, been a few weeks. So I'm sure people have read it. I don't know, but spoilers. Um, and it was really interesting just to see like things like Green Arrow, for example, how he's like, he was always sort of a Robin Hood archetype. So I imagine him being in a very interesting position. And, we didn't get too much on him in the first issue, just that he was an archer and that, oh yeah, he shoots Jor-El in the eye. Or like just like an arrow right through the face at the end, at a very crucial moment for Bruce, where he finds out that he too is the son of Jor-El, because throughout the issue, Batman took some crazy beatings, specifically when he took like a straight on attack from you know from Diana, aka the Black Canary. And a regular dude should have been toast, and he just kind of had like some bleeding ears and stuff like that. And that's when Jor-El takes him. It's kind of like, hey, yeah, so your mom and I, we both had sort of a weak moment, and I don't know, maybe she was just attracted to my Kryptonian charm. But either way, yeah, we did a thing, and you were the result of that. So congratulations, you're now Superman's brother. And I was like, okay, oh, that's different. That's very different, especially since his general origin of Batman also kind of stayed the same, where his parents were killed in a robbery and stuff like that, and of course then they took him in, and the elves took him in and gave him a home, and it was just kind of like, yeah, you could serve as Superman's kind of like loyal bodyguard and stuff like that, and he decided, yeah, cool, I'll do that whole thing, but I'll do it as a bat. And yeah, that was fairly interesting. So then we get into the second issue, and you know like just moments after Jor-El took the arrow through the eye, he died. That's it, that's the end of him in the story. And then of course Batman decides to mount up. He goes after the Green Arrow, and he gets him, and he catches up to him, cuts off his arm. And I'm like, oh, okay. So he cuts off his arm in this one, and now Green Arrow has only one arm. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, yeah, that's now he's got one arm like he did in Dark Knight Returns. Only it wasn't Superman who chopped off his arm. It was Batman with a sword, which was kind of cool. Not gonna lie. And so from there, the rest of the book pretty much is just about Superman and everyone. They're just trying to get it like or well, I shouldn't really call him Superman because he's not going by that, but Kal-El's going, he's trying to question Green Arrow. We go down to the prison, we see like all of the super people that they've locked up, because that's been sort of like a rule in their kingdom since like magic is really the only thing that can hurt them other than kryptonite. That they've been just locking up people. When we see like King Shark and Who else did we see? We saw. Gotta go back and look. I just read this too. This is very interesting. Uh, Trying to get down there. Oh yeah, Detective Chimp's in there too. uh, and just a few others and stuff like that, which I thought was pretty interesting. But then also like one other big change to that general story is because Jarell and Lara did survive Krypton's explosion with Kal-El. They were able to live on Earth for so many years, and it turns out that they had another kid. They had a daughter. So it's like Kal-El's got a sister. Very interesting. And what was that? Her name is what was it? Zala? Zala. Which, seems to be Supergirl for, better or worse. Seems to be Supergirl. Just not the cousin. They just made her the sister, which was, interesting. And she lives with the Amazonians, trains with them, and is in a relationship with Wonder Woman. So, of course, after Jarell's killed, news spreads across the land. It eventually reaches back to Zala, and she's like, okay, yep, my dad's been killed, so I gotta get out of here. And, we see her sometime later because, the hit for Jarell was, of course, done by they got people, guy that they're calling the Green Man, which obviously is Green Lantern. We don't see it as Green Lantern, but Green Man. Guy's like, yeah, the ring told me this, and I'm just like, okay, it's Green Lantern. At first when I heard Green Man, I was like, maybe Martian Manhunter, but considering that they're trying to kill the Kryptonians because they're alien, there's that. They'd probably want to kill Martian Manhunter too. And he'd be a lot easier to kill because, weakness is fire. So there you go. But yeah, so Jefferson Pierce, aka Black Lightning, he's got his own kingdom. And, he put out the hit because there's this prophecy that the way it's read and interpreted basically says that the Kryptonians are probably going to lay waste to the planet. So it's like, all right, best thing to do. He's like, that we can do is we gotta bump them off. That's just it. We gotta find ways to kill them and just get rid of them completely. But for every action, there's a reaction because he put out the hit, because it was carried out and it was successful. Jarell's daughter comes down and decides, yeah, okay, so you had my dad killed, so I'm gonna take one of yours, and decides to kill his son. She just flies him up in the air and just drops him. And despite his best efforts and trying to shoot lightning at her, and it just, she's Kryptonian, just bounces off. Kryptonians under the yellow sun, basically gods. What are you gonna do? And that is where that second issue ends and stuff. And so far it seems to be a very very interesting story. And as I'm reading it, I'm just sort of like, yeah, I get there's a prophecy and stuff like that, but as a king, if I was going to put a hit out on a Kryptonian and it was successful, I'd probably want to double down on my defenses because, if you're going to shake that tree, you got to, you have to assume that they're going to be coming in for you. So I thought that was just really interesting that he didn't double down any kind of defenses or anything like that, and just so that Zala just came in, took him, just kill his kid. So we'll have to see what his general reaction is going to be to that. Most likely it's going to be, of course, this means war, even though what he did first was technically an act of war, which means that most likely this is going to be a really bloody mess by the end. Which, when it comes to Tom Taylor, he seems to do pretty well. I'm not gonna lie, I like I like his out of continuity sort of like Elseworld what if stories. I've already brought up Deceased. I really like what he's doing with Dark Ages. I think that's been a really fun book, and so far, yeah, this has been fairly entertaining as well. Uh, so like, if I had to go back to, the Batman 118 and give that any kind of rating, I would say I'd give that first issue probably about a 7.5 out of 10. I liked it well enough. It definitely piqued my interest. Yeah, I thought the art was like really good in it. And with the Dark Knights of Steel, yeah, I'm probably say in the 7.5 to 8 out of 10 range. It's been a really fun book. Hasn't reached like maybe the same heights as maybe say Deceased in Dark Ages, but it's still like a really fun concept that I'm just like reading, and it's good to enjoy comics. Just saying. So that's pretty much it for the two comics that I wanted to talk about real quick. Oh, and this was an interesting news that came to my attention recently. So some of you may know that I am a really, really big Power Rangers fan, and I read the Boom Studios comic. I've done a few videos on like some of the books. I recently did a review on the first volume trade of Mighty Morphin. So definitely go check that out, and I'll probably come back and link these videos, some of these videos, and in the description and stuff like that. But yeah, so news recently dropped on the Power Ranger comic front that Amy Jo Johnson, who played Kimberly Hart, the original Mighty Morphin Pink Ranger, she's going to be co-writing a Power Rangers comic. So, and I thought, oh, that should be really interesting, because it's not the first time that the comic books and stuff like Boom Studios has worked with Power Rangers in the past, like Jason David Frank specifically. He was a consultant on the Soul of the Dragon trade paperback from Boom Studios, which was a really like that was just a fantastic book, because that was kind of like sort of the Power Rangers equivalent of Old Man Logan or something in that line, but with Tommy, so it was like the Old Man Tommy storyline, kind of like him at the end of his like, well, not even at the end, but like just past his prime as a Power Ranger. And so Amy Jo Johnson, since she had departed the Power Rangers show, she had gone on to like be both like a songwriter as well as like a producer of like various shows and stuff like that. So she's definitely she's definitely got those writing credits under her belt. I'm not sure how well those will translate into being able to write comics though, since they are two different mediums with two different script styles, and you got to pace comics different from how you pace like movies and shows and whatnot. But it'll be interesting. It'll definitely be interesting because having been a Power Ranger, she definitely would know the ins and outs of how to, hopefully set up a story at the very least. From what I read in a few different articles, stuff like that. She's also going to be like again co-writing it with her boyfriend, who's going to be the one that's putting all her ideas on paper, because apparently like he's a really big uh, comic book fan. He just reads and consumes tons of comic books, and so I don't know, they didn't name drop him, so I don't know if he's ever written a comic book before, whether for a publisher or for uh any indie titles or anything like that. So as far as the type of writing quality that we're going to be seeing, I really don't know how this is going to go. But if Boom Studios approves it, I'm sure there's some kind of quality control going on, because they've done really well with their Power Rangers titles and stuff like that. And I'm not really sure. It didn't say specifically whether this was going to be like some kind of mini series, maxi series, or if this was going to be an OGN. But the general premise that she had kicking around was that it was going to be sort of like a Power Rangers Where Are They Now type of reunion story, because all of the original actors, they're in their mid to late 40s and stuff, and uh, she wants to kind of place the story like around their current ages and just kind of like get the band back together. Maybe for, I don't know, one last adventure. So what we could be seeing is something akin to, as they previously mentioned, Power Rangers Soul of the Dragon, just for like, the ensemble cast rather than just specifically focusing on one character. So it'll be interesting, to see what happens from that, and like when it comes out, and how the story, develops and whatnot. So I think that's pretty much all the stuff I wanted to cover. Let me see. Yeah, yeah, that's the end of my list. So, um, saw a few people like pop in, pop out. Hopefully, you heard something interesting, or you thought, hey, you need to really work on your live streaming etiquette because you kind of suck at this, and you know, uh, doing it pre-recorded is definitely different than doing it live. That is for sure. We got Eric. Looking at your comments, put Tom King on Jar ongoing again. Very funny, would be interesting. Focus Joe, quit reading stupid comments. Well, now I'm at the end of the discussion, so I'm allowed to read the stupid comments. And quality reviews, kid. And I have no idea if that's a joke or whatnot, because I'm doing this and rambling quite a bit, trying to keep myself on track. But yeah, so this is something I hopefully can start doing weekly, where I get my regular videos out there, and then it's like, all right, for everything that's left over that I want to talk about, I'm gonna throw it all into a live stream. So we'll see how it goes. Oh, serious. All right, thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate it. And yeah, that brings us to, hey, okay, yeah, about the 32-minute mark. So very, very good. All right, and with that, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up. And if you're happen to watch this later, go ahead and, hey, leave some comments. Let me know what you think about Joshua Williamson on Batman. What you think about Dark Knights of Steel, the Tom Taylor DC deal and stuff like that. And yeah, we can keep the conversation going in the comment section below. So if you haven't already, go ahead, like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. Ring the notification bell, all that good stuff. All right, take care. Have a great day. As always, stay geeky.